What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Friday Mastermind. We are here every Friday, 9 o'clock Pacific, to bring amazing guests. Sometimes it's top producing loan officers, sometimes it's top producing realtors, sometimes it's executives, and sometimes it's just leaders, people that are innovators. And today's guest, I'll introduce in a minute. But Todd, anything you want to say to frame today's call before we get started?
Well, I love this whole idea. This is something that, Deb and Plug and Play have been talking about for a long time, is this whole idea of how do you get found in a day of AI, right? When search engine optimization is changing. So I'm super excited to have James here. I've known James for a while, but we haven't caught up. So I'm excited to hear his perspective on it. So speaking of Deborah Bird, there she is.
What's up? We got 1 week left of July, guys. Let's go.
I love that. While you are you build social brands, you help get distribution of personal brands through social media, but you always bring the like, hey guys, it's the end of the quarter. Hey, it's almost the end of July, and you bring that like business coach vibe.
Because we're
So
always tracking,
yeah,
you
I
know?
think that's why you are so good at what you do is you know how to deliver advice with price, you know how to win with social, and then you're a business coach. So thank you,
Well,
Deborah.
thank you. Thanks, guys.
Just call it like I see it. So, guys, the topic today is the right way to think about AI and personal branding. We've got a leader today, James Duncan. I met James when he ran marketing for Thrive, and he was part of the decision team to bring Mortgage Coach and build it into the Thrive platform. He did a really good job of managing our partnership. He was someone who did some loans, so he's been a user of Mortgage Coach. He also was the VP of marketing for Lower, one of the bigger platforms that's really scaling, he knows innovation. And now he's I don't know exactly how to describe it, but the way I think of it is a fractional CMO. He's working with companies, he's working with leaders. Part of what he's doing is helping them build personal brands. Part of what he's doing is building brands, but using AI to win locally and to win with databases. Would that be fair to say, James?
Yep, totally fair to say. Good assessment.
Good. So you picked the headline and you also had some topics that you want to cover. Why
Yeah.
why did you pick this headline and why, what are some of the other topics you want to cover today?
Well, there's really never been a time in marketing specifically and technology innovation more generally where I have seen something evolve as fast as this is evolving, and it is coming fast and furious. And the traditional means or the traditional methods of leveraging smart SEO strategies has the script is being rewritten basically every day when we wake up and get to our desk. There's always something new to learn, and this transformation has been really fascinating to watch. And I know we're going to dive into specific topics in a bit, but there are distinct differences between the way that marketers would leverage SEO versus the way that they need to think about leveraging AI, or what I'm terming as GEO, Generative Engine Optimization. The reason I picked that term is because there's not currently a major consensus on what to call it. Everybody has their own flavor of how they want to brand it. Some are saying AIO, others are saying various different acronyms and whatever. But it really comes down to this: the large language models and the AI platforms give more credibility to different things than what let's say Google search would give credit to. And that's really what's changing. It doesn't mean that traditional SEO practices are no longer valid. A lot of them are, the smart ones are. It's just that the game is changing, and what excites me the most as a marketer is that AI is really leveling the playing field for the little guys to have a fighting chance instead of getting squeezed out by all the brands and those with the biggest megaphones and the bottom or the deep pockets to really spend their way into attention. AI is transforming that equation, and Google is very scared about it, about what's happening right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, although Google has, they weren't chat is kind of like, oh, it's here. But Google has been investing heavily for a long time in AI. They are doing great things. We actually, was it last Friday that we had the Steve Brown? He was the chief
Features.
evangelist for Intel. He actually was working with DeepMind in Google for over a year, most recently, and we talked about the future. He claimed that 2025, is going to go down as the year of agent AI, that agents are here and AI agents are delivering real value in the marketplace. Any opinions on that?
I think he's right. I think that as of the end of March of this year, I think I saw a statistic that Google had upwards around 67% market share on the whole on the whole search engine or on the search market. And very quickly, once deep research came out as a functionality across a lot of different AI platforms, once that started transitioning, we started to see a very rapid evolution or rapid move of just average consumers using, let's say, ChatGPT as a search engine. And it became, and so the way that this is transforming the game is that traditional SEO was largely about keywords or keyword density and optimized and how search engines would optimize or index those web pages for specific chunks of phrases. AI doesn't work that way. AI now leverages the content by looking at conversations and doing deep insights and making inferences based on how the user structured the prompt. So that's a whole bunch of jargon just to say that AI actually is humanizing the way that we engage in order to try and solve problems that we've got or do research on topics that are going to help us make our lives better. And there's a whole bunch, and so that's kind of left marketers asking the question, well, I've got 1,000 blog entries on my website, so now, and none of them are showing up in an AI query. So now what do I do? And so those are the tactics and the strategies that people are discovering and kind of what I would love to dive deeply into. But as far as what you asked, yeah, he's right. This whole concept of agentic AI is really coming to the forefront, and there's a lot of people in our industry who are paying attention to it, and others in our industry that are kind of like they don't really know what they need to be paying attention to because there's so much coming out so fast.
Yeah, and guys, it is here. Like it's
Yeah,
not
it's
coming.
here. It's not going away.
I actually did a podcast with Wally Illiberry on Monday, who was one of the alpha testers of our AI and mortgage coach, which it's out, guys. Like AI mortgage coach is there where consumers can interact with a mortgage coach experience, get questions. And he did something really smart. It's the first person that I've seen, and I know others are doing this, but he's got like these 10 prompts that every home buyer should know about. And those 10 prompts make him look like a hero. And those 10 prompts can be put into a total cost analysis. I'll actually
Mhm.
show a screenshot of those. We'll put a link. If you're watching this in YouTube, there'll be a link to this interview with Wally where he like 10 prompts every loan officer should be giving to realtors and home buyers. And if you give them these 10 prompts and they put it into your mortgage coach, you were just looking like a genius, which by the way, gave me an idea. Tell me what you think about this, James. I might even share it, is I'm writing an article that I want to give heads of marketing and heads of production prompts that if they put this prompt into Perplexity or into chat, they're going to
Mhm.
be like, oh my God, I need mortgage coach. And so I'm actually going to use it to drive adoption and sales success of growing mortgage coach. What are your thoughts on all that?
I think it's absolutely brilliant, Dave. And you're one of the ones that is going to benefit the most from what AI is becoming because of the fact that you and your team at Trust Engine have had such a strong SEO game to begin with in the before times, I'll call it, before AI. So it's just what that stuff like that is going to do is it's going to allow you to leverage the existing authoritative content that you've already shared and be able to um, multiply your ability to spread the gospel of how Mortgage Coach can help people level up their loan origination game and become the trusted local advisor.
Yeah, well, love it, love it. By the way, I'm going to share.
Hopefully that was the endorsement you were looking for.
Yeah, well, I wasn't so much looking for endorsement. I was looking for your true like perspective and
Yeah.
advice. And I'm going to just kind of put in some of these prompts that Wally shared, but I would love for you all, like we're all learning together. So if there's
Mhm.
some prompts that you're using that are helping you, I interviewed another loan officer, um, um, Josh Campbell, who's like the number one loan officer, and I'm not sure which Dakota. I want to say South Dakota, in a specific town, Rapid Cities, and he was showing how he's using AI, and I mean it's just profound. Deborah, any
Well,
questions?
Dave, one thing on the new Mortgage Coach with AI is the actual questions that the clients ask. Those could be very prompts to turn into either short form video content, long form content, because a lot of the LLMs, they're looking for the like frequently asked questions and how
Mhm.
directly are you answering those types of questions. So where do you get an idea bank of your content every week? What are the people typing into Mortgage Coach? What types of questions are they putting in? There you go. There's an idea bank for you just by leveraging the new Mortgage Coach.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, and I just put one prompt in, so I really recommend y'all start playing this game. So
Mhm.
Deborah, any
Well,
questions you have
notice
for?
that he's got an exactly what to say phrase there to start help me understand as Wally has gone through mine and Deb's certification and sat there just like you, Dave, for 2 days to learn how to better communicate and ask better questions.
Yeah, make sure you guys and Todd at some point share for how they can get on the list or find out about the next one. But to Todd's point, you know, you want to you don't need to be a prompt engineer, but words matter.
Right.
And so be very thoughtful about the prompts, and you should really have a collection of prompts so that you're educating consumers because they're using AI already, not all of them, probably
Mhm.
not even 50%. I mean, from what we can tell, it's somewhere in the 20 to 30%. But guys, this is the fastest growing technology in humankind. And you guys should be, leading the charge.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
James,
Dave, you said something just now that when you mentioned you don't have to be a prompt engineer, that's actually spot on. It has nothing to do with prompt engineering or knowing to the level of or to the degree of detail that those of us on this call right now have about how AI models function. It's just about knowing, and I said this to my students back when I was a high school teacher. Oftentimes, the right question is better than the right answer. And so, what AI will help you to do, the more that you use it, the more you leverage it, it helps you get better at asking the right questions. Mike just had a great statement. What are people desiring to know? That's so critical in going into this because, like what you've built for Mortgage Coach is similar to what I've built on my end in doing what I do now with my marketing agency or my consulting firm that I launched I've created an agent that allows me to do very, very deep research in minutes. What used to take me, because I've always been a data geek and I've always been into doing research and just learning new things and making correlation that used to take me days or weeks to perform a strategic analysis on a company or a brand or some strategy. Now, because of a couple of the agents I've built, now that same amount of research takes me minutes, and I'm able to actually complete an entire assessment on where a particular company is right now versus where they want to go, and help to structure a roadmap for them to get from A to B. So it's hugely beneficial. I would not have been able to start doing what I'm doing without the assistance of I'd need like 10 research assistants that I wouldn't be able to pay for.
yeah, no doubt. Well, I'm gonna do a prompt right now. Perplexity just told me it's gonna take about 8 minutes. I'll tell you what it is in a minute, but I can
Okay.
guarantee the answer would help you be a more effective loan officer. It'd help you be a more effective marketer, and and you would win if you were able to do things like this. So what are some of the most important things you want to cover? Because I remember one time when, not one time, but when you and I were kind of prepping back and forth on this, you said, I've got some provocative thoughts that not everybody's going to agree with. What are some of the things that you believe, and what are the things you believe that you think everybody in mortgage is not necessarily going to agree with?
Well, it all stems from the conversation of building your personal brand. This is some, I mean, you've heard me get on my soapbox a number of times over the years, Dave, you probably have a sense of how I feel about it. But I think that the term personal branding is has gotten to the point where it's almost lost all meaning. And because here's the thing, there's nothing necessarily wrong with the statement on its face. Where people make the wrong inferences are the conclusions that they draw from it. That building a personal brand means I have to come up with my own individualized logo. I have to come up with my own individualized tagline. I have to come up with my own identity separate from whatever company is carrying my sponsorship. That's not what personal branding means. Personal branding, the definition of personal branding is really just a fancy way of saying publicity, because personal brand is obviously talking about your people's experience in working with you. Do they know you, number one, and do they know how you're going to go about solving their problem, number two? That's it. But people have extrapolated that into thinking that, well, that means that I now need to spend a whole bunch of time and invest a whole bunch of money into something that's going to differentiate me so that I can stand out, and that's not needed. And the way that I like, or the analogy that I like to use, is that living here in Central Texas, I'm very close to the world headquarters for Dell Technologies. I've known a number of outside sales reps who worked for Dell, who would bring in 8, 9 figure, even 10-figure deals on a regular basis. And do you know whose logo was on their business card? Dell's. It's not and did they have a personal brand? They absolutely do. What they had was expertise, was a way of building rapport and relationships with their clients, was a way of figuring out how to best solve their clients' problems, and they crushed it. So, so now let's pivot over to our conversation about AI and how am I going to be distinctive? If I'm an individual loan officer, how am I going to stand out? How am I going to leverage my distinctiveness if I don't have uh, a vast digital footprint, if I don't have a big fancy website that I spent time building out on my own? So when you transition to that conversation, this is how individual loan officers and even leaders of mortgage companies, this is how they need to start thinking about it. The bottom line is this, is that visibility in AI starts with authority, not access. So even if you don't control a website, there are still things that you can do. You can still, like Deb is excellent at this. You can still create context rich and answer-driven content on the platforms that you do control. So if you have a CRM, that gives you an opportunity for you to create it doesn't have to be a formal newsletter, but create that content that goes to your database, extolling your genius and extolling your areas of expertise. If you have a LinkedIn profile, you can publish articles on LinkedIn. The I've been surprised as I've done more research with AI and have done a bunch of different prompts and doing what I do. I'm surprised at the number of times where LinkedIn actually, a LinkedIn resource, like specifically an article, gets referenced in the response to my queries. AI engines love LinkedIn, and it's one of the few social media platforms that they actually do gravitate to. Second thing you can do is contribute as a named expert and to your company's content. So as a former marketing director, I can tell you we were constantly putting out calls for, hey, give us ideas, give us contributions. We would we would go to our top producers and say, hey, is there some kind of content that you would like to contribute to an article? We'll attribute it to you, connect it to you, but it's going to go on the main page or on the main website. Look for those kinds of opportunities. So if you feel like I don't have a huge digital presence, there are tons of ways where you can actually leverage your knowledge and start expanding that into various different digital platforms that the LLMs will pick up and use in their training and in their own research. So those are a
Yeah.
couple of tips. I've got more if we want to get into it, but I don't want to talk
Well, I
forever.
love it. Well, one idea I have, guys, and I'm going to share a few prompts. I see Mike just shared a great prompt. Knowing that we're talking about AI and personal brand, I think it would be really great if we listed out all the things you need to do to build a personal brand. And we might be able to do that in 10 minutes. We might be able to do that in 20. We might take the whole call doing it. And clearly everybody knows one of the things you can do to build a personal brand is have a name, like the mortgage nerd. And we happen to have the twin of the mortgage nerd on today's call. So like that's something you could do. You could have a logo that supports that. And I think, James's point is he's not saying those are bad things to do. He's saying you can have a personal brand and not do that, or that's maybe not even the most important thing. So I'm going to throw one thing out and then let's go around. Let's like, Deborah, why don't you say something? Todd, you share an idea. James, you share as many ideas. But I'm going to start with you could have a value prop like my advice makes a difference. I mean, when I started MortgageCoach, actually years before I started MortgageCoach, I had a positioning statement. My advice makes a difference. And then I would ask some questions that were different than other loan officers, which by the way, different questions can be part of your brand. And then I would give people a different deliverable instead of here's your rate, here's your payment, here's your cash to close. I'd give them options and show them how to achieve financial freedom faster. So it was the presentation that I gave that was part of my personal brand.
Mhm.
So questions can be part of branding. A value prop statement can be branding. A deliverable when you give price to a consumer can be part of branding. Todd, you haven't talked yet. What are some other things, and then anything you want to say so far?
Well, that's because we've got James and Deborah and you here. I'm like, you guys are all the kings and queens of AI. I just think already, I've got 2 action points here that I'm going to take to my team, right? One is start writing on LinkedIn. If LinkedIn's getting picked up right now on AI, why wouldn't we do something that's pretty easy lift, right? You certainly know there's plenty of articles out there you can write, and you could probably ask one of the LLMs. What are the top questions that consumers are asking about mortgages and start writing about those so you can become an expert. And then the second is you should certainly be reaching out to your company now and seeing if they've got something that they're going to publish that you can contribute to. So let's go with the low hanging fruit, which are the first 2 things that James said you could do to improve your searchability in AI.
Mhm.
So Dave,
Deborah.
one thing I would add to something that you said earlier, and I think to just kind of put an exclamation point on what James was saying is a lot of times people will overthink the logo or the tagline, and the mortgage nerd is referenced almost in every discovery call that I do, and we do
Mhm.
multiple discovery calls a day. And there's a reason why a lot of copycats of the nerd haven't been successful. And it's because the offline reputation and the online reputation must be congruent. And there has
Mhm.
to be repeatable, consistent success that backs up whatever your brand promise is to ultimately create, quote, a brand that is recognizable, that's trusted, and that people would choose. I also argue often that, not argue, but just see it in a different way that we don't actually own our personal brand. We may influence it, but technically we have a million and more personal brands because it lives in the mind and the perception of what people think and feel about us, which sometimes 2 people can see the same thing and come away with a different story or different perception based off their unique values or their filtering system. Doesn't always mean that it's true, but it's true to them. So it's your character, it's your reputation at scale,
Mhm.
and ultimately it's knowing your code. If you don't
Mhm.
know who you are and you just go straight to what are my color codes and what's going to be my, logo, but there's no meaning behind it. There's no, like, how do you prove that you deliver on your brand promise? Does that
Mhm.
show up in your content? Because I hear a lot of people project and regurgitate from what some of the people we interview. And so you start to see on repeat, like, we help people build wealth through real estate. Well, that's no longer a unique value proposition when everybody's saying the same value proposition. And furthermore, when people go to your social and they're looking for evidence of, you know, prove to me you are who you say you are, and you'll do what you say you'll do. Where can I see that? Because now everyone's a guru, everyone's a top producer. How do I know I can trust you? So what I love about socials, it is exposing and allowing people to be their own media source. And the people like Diddy and, well, sort of like Diddy are getting caught and found out, where you can't just buy your way through um, manipulation really of influence.
Yeah.
So I would say you've really got to know your code and go inward, and what are the values and the things that you actually believe to be true, not what others believe. Because I've
Mhm.
been there, done that, worn that t-shirt of thinking I'll just be an extension of the nerd and it'll work for me. But it didn't work for me because it wasn't true to
Mhm.
me. So it does mean you have to learn thyself before, and really look at, what do people say about me? What are my reviews? What are constant patterns of how people describe me? Because we also have to look for the brand gap of what you think your reputation is and maybe what you want, but then what is it in reality?
I'm
Love
glad,
that.
Deborah, I'm glad that you brought up your sister, because in my opinion, obviously, you and I used to work together. Denise and I used to work together. In my opinion, Denise would have been just as successful a top producer without the Mortgage Nerd brand as she is with it. It did not define her. It was showmanship at its best. I think that Denise is one of the smartest business people I've ever worked with. And a few years ago, when we were still working together, she and I were having a conversation, just talking about some topic, and just over Zoom. And there was a question that I always wanted to ask her, and I said, Denise, when was it? When was that tipping point when more people identified you as the mortgage nerd than by your given name, by Denise? And she said, she thought about it for a second. She said, well, it was probably about 2019. Well, knowing Denise's background, I knew that she had first started introducing the concept of the mortgage nerd. And Deborah, do you know when
What?
she started doing
Do I know
that? Do you
what?
know what year it was when she started doing that?
Um, it was way before 2019, because we went
Uh-huh.
from the Donahue team to
Yeah.
your mortgage nerd to then evolve to
Uh-huh.
the mortgage nerd, and now it's the mortgage nerd group.
Yeah.
Um,
It was
I want to say
2012.
I was going to say 2013 or 2014.
It was 2012 when she first started it. So here's the lesson, in that 7 years, seven
Yeah.
years of doing what other people weren't, doing what other people wouldn't, and investing countless hours, countless videos. And Deb, I know you helped her with a lot of those videos. Uh,
Mhm.
just putting blood, sweat, tears, money, resources, time into building something. 7 years is what it took. Well, I see people who get frustrated when they come up with a fancy new logo that's exclusive to them and it doesn't work in 7 weeks.
Yes.
Very few people. This is why I say that Denise is the exception that proves the rule. She put in the work, and she put in the, like I said, blood, sweat, and tears into building something that became bigger than just one person. She's the heartbeat of it, absolutely. But this is one of the things that people miss about personal branding, is that, number one, if you're going to go all in on a concept like that, you better go all in. And I remember back when I was lead marketing for Thrive, there was a guy, I'm not going to call him out by name, but there was a guy who came to me. He was a brand new loan officer. And he said, I want your help in building a brand. And I said, what's wrong with the, I always ask this question whenever somebody comes to me with that request. I say, what's wrong with the one you got? Because their response to that question, it tells me everything I need to know about what their mindset is and the reason behind why they want to do this. Is it for ego? Is it truly to build business? Is it going to be a waste of this person's time? And this person wanted to be known as the mortgage gladiator. And I was like, he hadn't even closed a single loan yet. And I was like, dude, I'm telling you, this is not going to work for you. This is not going to work the way that you think it's going to work. You don't need a clever tagline. You don't need a Spartan helmet logo, which that's a whole different issue why you chose a Spartan helmet versus Gladiator. But anyway, it's anachronistic is where I'm going with that. But
Ooh, big
but
word
basically, it
alert. Big
was
word alert. Big word alert.
a
Anachronistic.
big word
I
alert.
don't
alert.
think
I
we use
remember I
that.
was an English teacher, so
I know.
and
I
history
know.
too.
I
Let me
was a
call that out.
science teacher, so I have no idea what that word means or how many syllables
It,
it has.
it means that gladiators and Spartans were separated by about 600 years. So there was no correlation between the two. Anyway, minor detail. The
Wow.
bigger issue was the fact that this guy hadn't closed a single loan yet. He didn't. even know what it was that he wanted. He didn't know what he was asking me. And so we had a lot of back and forth, and he ended up doing it, and we're like, okay. And he's not in the business anymore. I think he lasted for all of about 9 months. So my point is not that you don't necessarily need to build those things out to help you grow your business, but don't confuse that with building your personal brand. Because it's a different those things are different concepts. Those are what are known as brand identities. And so I'll give you another example. If I say the word Nike, and Todd, I'm gonna pick on you on this one. When I say the word Nike, what comes to your mind?
Michael Jordan,
Michael
running
Jordan,
fast. Just do
in
it.
the Jumpman pose
Well, hey, my
on a pair of
turn.
Air Jordans.
Just
Air
do it.
Jordans. Yep. Just do it.
Just
Just
do
do
it.
it. The Nike swoosh probably was
Yep.
the visual representation. Okay,
Yep.
so let me ask you a different question. Todd, what's your experience in consuming or purchasing Nike products?
Not much until recently.
Okay, like, do you think it's high quality? Like, what do you think about it, or what do you
Oh,
think
what's my
about Nike? Is
experience?
it?
Oh, I actually view it as high quality. I've toured their facility,
Hmm.
and so I've got a perspective from going through there. But I also have friends who view it as, my running shop that used to be next to my bike shop said they were the worst running shoes possible, and they did everything they could do to sell against them. So I think everyone's got a different perception of it.
Absolutely right. That's a brand. That the logo, the swoosh logo is not a brand. There's a vast difference between me just saying the word Nike and what pops in your mind versus the association you have with what that brand means to you, good, bad, or indifferent. So Nike doesn't want to sell you shoes; they want to be your running buddy. It's more of a lifestyle play than anything else. So my point in going through that exercise with Todd was to point out that brand is not synonymous with logo. That's a brand identity. That is a representation of what your brand means. And people are either going to have, to Deb's point, people are the ones who are in control of what that reputation or what that connotation means, good, bad, or indifferent, not you. So this is why I tell people one of the first things that I try to do is to tell them not to get uh, if you're going to work on your personal brand, great, do it, and but understand what it is that you're doing. It's not logo, it's publicity. It's getting word out. It's making sure that you're known, because think of it in the context of our conversation around how AI lines up with this. The future of AI is not going to reward the loudest voices. It's not going to reward the people that have the biggest megaphones. I used that metaphor a second ago. It's going to reward the people who are the clearest and have the most consistency and the most compelling and helpful insights that are going to help people solve the problems that they have. That's really what it comes down to.
So I want to unpack a few things, make a list. Feel free to edit this, anyone. So, so while a brand identity, which is a name and a logo, there's a place for it, but
Hmm.
that is not the heart of a personal brand. The heart of a personal
Bingo.
brand is how you make people feel. It's what they think of when they think of you. And there's going to be a lot of different perspectives to Todd's point in Nike's case. Some people don't think they're the best running shoes. By the way, some people do. Um,
Hmm.
People who really run know they're not, but that's a whole different topic we could go down a rabbit hole on. They are great basketball shoes. They are great at certain things and not at great certain things. So I think for everyone listening to this, I would push you based off of you. I do think having a brand message that is not, I have the lowest rates, I close loans the fastest, anything that has to do with transaction is probably not the direction you want to go in building a brand identity. Things like my advice makes a difference. Things like realtors, that guy helps me sell more homes. Things like that guy helps my families build wealth with real estate faster. Things like that are going to win. And then he makes the biggest point of all, because of the thousands of interviews that I've done with top producers. I've seen a lot of ways to win in this business. I've seen a lot of personal brands. I've seen a lot of different, just who they get their business from. But you know what I've never seen from $100 million producer? Someone that doesn't do whatever they do consistently over time. Like all of the best people, they have a process, they have a value prop, they work hard, they win by noon, and they are consistent. So whatever you're going to pick something that, you know what, I'm going to do it all the time. And like Denise is a great example. I'm the
Mhm.
mortgage nerd. By the way, that logo, that would not have worked if she didn't use Mortgage Coach. If
I
she
was
didn't
going to
do
say
TikTok.
100% it was built off Mortgage Coach
Yeah, well, and if she didn't do
consistently.
Instagram videos that were like, "Hey guys, check this out." You know, this person was confused. They didn't know what to do. They didn't realize
Mhm.
this. I showed them this. Guys, who wants this? So have your brand is so much more like Todd called out LinkedIn. I'm super proud to say, and I'm going to put a few like executive prompts, and we've been very thoughtful about this, that like your website matters, but you know what else
Mhm.
matters? All those LinkedIn posts, those Facebook posts,
Mhm.
the press releases that Housing Wire puts in the market, now that AI is here, it's going to search dozens to hundreds of sources, and you want to have content, data-driven content. One of the things I always do is I'll ask AI a question and I'll go and use as much data as possible to help me make the case. Uh, so it's never like you want to have a brand, you want to kill it, win locally, win your database. You got to do all these things. You got to do them consistently.
Mhm.
Anything you want to add on to that?
You directing that at me?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you're the special guest, so yeah.
Okay. Um, yeah, I think that I'm a guy who is always interested in the now what, as in now what do I do with that information? So obviously that we've pretty well established the fact that AI is changing the game when it comes to discoverability. And I talked about how it starts with authority, not access. Like just because you don't have an expansive digital footprint right now doesn't mean that you can't begin building the things that are going to help you get be a part of an AI summary or get cited. So I've got some tactics of what individual loan officers can begin doing right now, whether they've got a full-blown whiz-bang website that they set up on their own or not. The first thing that you have to do is you have to understand the shift that is occurring, like as we speak. And like, I mean, it could not be in more real time than it is. And so think of traditional SEO as the main question that you would ask as a marketer is where do I rank on Google? The way that AI is changing that question is where do I show up in the conversation whenever someone asks a question? That's you need to have that shift where not in terms of where do I rank, but where do I show up? The next thing that you can get into some tactics is especially if you have a slightly limited control is you need to start building personal not your personal brand but personal what I would refer to as micro authority content and or a micro content footprint if you will. So we talked about publishing on LinkedIn. The other things that you can do is having more of a teaching first tone where here's what I wish every first time home buyer understood about rate changes. Like could create an article on that and go very, very deep because um, one thing about AI rewards breadth, not depth, or excuse me, other way around. AI rewards depth, not breadth. So it actually ignores breadth. So if you have 10 blog posts that would be considered like micro content about that all 10 blog posts answer the same question in a very fluffy manner, just from slightly different perspectives. AI is going to learn to ignore that. And or that they maybe already are ignoring that because the way that they have been trained is to ignore the fluffy crap that goes on most companies' blogs. So I've got a few clients that I'm working with right now, and one of the first things that I did an audit of their website. One of the first things I told them to do was you need to change. You got a blog section up on your nav bar that you need to change the name from blogs to insights or learning center or knowledge center, something else other than blogs, because the LLMs have been trained to eliminate that stuff because it tends to be filled with a whole bunch of fluffy crap. And the reason why it was filled with a whole bunch of fluffy crap is because there were a lot of SEO agencies who would come in and charge you a whole bunch of money to build out a content library so it looked like you had this expansive knowledge library of content, but it was really just keyword stuffing and all of the pieces. And yeah, maybe it got you ranked on Google for certain things, but AI thinks vastly differently in that regard. So that strategy of doing a shotgun approach to content around a single topic, you need to stop doing that, and you need to ask your company or tell your marketing director at your company stop doing that, because it's not gonna help you in the long run. It's actually gonna hurt you, um, because it's eventually your domain is going to start getting diluted. Next thing, I mean, you need to tag each post when you make if you make posts on LinkedIn. You need to tag each post around a single idea, but include very deep, rich content. So I think you kind of get where I'm going with that whole concept of creating micro authority. Second thing, you need to answer real buyer questions. This is what I would always this is how I would always respond to loan officers who I would try and encourage them to get more engaged with video and doing video content. Deb, I know that you've heard this excuse a gajillion times. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to post. I turn the camera on and my mind goes blank. Well, stop thinking that way. When it comes to creating content that's better leveraged for AI, just come up with a list of what are the last 10 borrower conversations that you had. What were the topics that came up? What were the questions that they were asking? Every loan officer has this at the ready. All you got to do is just think back through those conversations and identify all those different questions, and that's your structure for the content. Because I mean, hopefully you had a ready answer for whatever those questions happen to be. So leverage your content that way and do it out loud, meaning video content as well as in writing. I'll give you one more quick example, then I'll move on. There was I was on a webinar a few weeks back with Megan Handy, who's the CMO for Embrace Home Loans, and she gave an example of using AI to do a search, doing a deep research query, and came back with the response. She was reading through the response, and they had cited a YouTube video. So she clicked on the link, went to YouTube, watched the video. It was like an 8 or 10 minute video given by this person, very insightful, gave her a lot of good insights into the topic she was researching. And it was only after she finished watching the video that she looked down and checked the person's channel and saw that they had only 300 subscribers. And I smiled when she gave that story, because it is 100% in alignment with what I've been saying about AI is now leveling the playing field for the little guy or the little girl, and giving those with substance a voice. And it didn't cite somebody that has like Mr. Beast level subscribers. Somebody with 300 subscribers to that's like a burgeoning, maybe a brand new YouTube channel, and it got cited in an AI search. So that's the opportunity that you have. If you go deep with your insights, and then you stand a much better chance of AI being able to recognize that content and see you as an authoritative source. So make sure that you're doing that. And then last thing I'll say is collaborate with your marketing department. They are, as I mentioned before, having lived that life before, I know that they are inundated with requests and with projects and our ad capacity. Sometimes they need people to in the organization to step up and say, hey, let me help you with some content ideas. This is what I'm seeing. What do you think? Can we do something around it and help them with that? So there's a number of ways that individuals, even if you don't have an extensive digital footprint, there are ways that individuals can begin doing things right now that will pay dividends down the road and help you become more discoverable as an authoritative source.
Love this. So guys, James, you are just such a wealth of value. I just put a prompt together, guys. You know, while James has been talking, I created a prompt. I'm a loan officer, and it would be helpful to know the biggest problems and concerns that today's home buyers have. Give me the 5 biggest problems they have, and use as much data to tell home buyers biggest issues and concerns. So by the way, guys, I put the link in chat, and then by the way, it gave me some pretty good data-driven insights as to what the concerns, what the obstacles were. Down payment and cost was number one. And so first of all, this is worth reading. I'm going to scan through this. And then I said, give me 5 great headlines that I can use to create a killer LinkedIn post, because Todd said, hey, LinkedIn gets scraped. It gave me 5 killer posts. I picked one that I liked. And by the way, guys, I was just having fun while we were talking. And then I said, write 100, I actually spelled word wrong, word LinkedIn post. And it gave me 100-word LinkedIn post. It was pretty good. And then I said, write a 200, oh my God, I spelled word wrong again, version and a 750-word version. So you could have both a short post, and we're not going to call it a blog, but an insight. Um, by the way, I personally like Whoosy, because Whoosy uses, chat, Gemini, and others, like when I really write, or I just like chat for actually creating the content. So personally, I would probably, if I liked one of these, I'd put it in chat and I'd work it up a little bit, or put it in Whoosy. But check this out, guys. So first of all, those are really good. And then I said, how can I use Mortgage Coach software to help with these content and these posts? You know what? It gave me some really, by the way, spot on direction of how, as I am a mortgage coach, I could write better content. And again, I was just listening to the conversation. Todd is, find the biggest problems. Todd said, did a post, uh, wrote that. And then I said, how can I integrate Mortgage Coach visualization tools into my content? Kaboom. By the way, this is exactly what Denise does. This is super good. And then we talked about, why do people not do videos? Because they don't know what to say. So I said, oh, give me a 30-second script that I can use to create an Instagram story. Hey everyone, thinking about buying your first home, but worried about the down payment and closing costs? You're not alone. 81% of buyers say the same thing. But the good news is you can put much less down than you expect. There are over 2,500 programs that can help you, with 17,000 in assistance. If you're curious about bridging the cash gap and draining your savings, DM me. And then I said, oh, let's put Mortgage Coach into the call to action. DM me and I'll send you your own personalized Mortgage Coach analysis. So guys, I hope you're getting the point that, like, all that matters really in the future, if you're a local referral based, is personal brand. And personal brand does not mean a logo and a name. Personal brand means a value that you're creating, an experience that you're creating. And there's going to be those who really use AI at a very high level, makes them more efficient, makes them more effective, makes them more valuable. And there's going to be people that don't. So, James, I want to close out. We've got about 10 minutes left, because I really believe that now training AI, like one of the things, I'm writing this book called Know Your Code. And I we both talked about Katie Shiv early on. And Deborah, I'm sure you're doing this with a lot of your clients, where you're helping them build like a brand book, so that they're training their AI to create more authentic content. So I'd really like to just close out around, Dennis, your thoughts on this, because you're consulting with companies, you're consulting with loan officers. Deborah, I'm going to give you the first chance after he shares kind of like, what do we need to, what should every loan officer that's local put into their brand book? You give your feedback on it, and then Todd and I will help close out today's call. But you go first, James.
I think that one of the critical things is you know more than you think you do. I mean, we all go through. I categorize 4 different phases on the journey from not having knowledge to having knowledge to gaining wisdom. One is you don't know what you don't know, and that's when you're a brand new beginner and you're just starting out. You're so new to a concept, whether it's mortgage or learning a new program or whatever it happens to be, that you don't know what you don't know. Therefore, you don't know the right questions to ask. So you go down that journey. You start learning a few things. And so you get to a point where you know what you don't know, and so now that's where clarity starts coming into play, where you've got you start having some more of those aha moments where you're connecting the dots in the data that you're learning. Then the third phase of that is you don't know what you know. So you're just an extension of that journey where sometimes you forget some of those basics that you remembered back at the beginning, and you forgot about the volumes of content that you created when you were in the second part of the journey. And then the last phase is you know it. So once you kind of take a step back and just kind of go through an evaluation of that process, think back through all of whether it's social media posts, or even if you've never been heavily engaged on social media, go to your emails and just go to your emails that were very thoughtful, very insightful, where you delivered key insights to a borrower. Think about Zoom calls that you've had. Excuse me, talking so fast I didn't swallow. But think about past Zoom calls that you've had. Do you have transcripts that you can download? Think of it. Where I'm going with all this is that you've got more thought leadership pieces at your disposal than you probably think you have. And there are a number of ways that you can get your thoughts and just do a deep download into and upload that into your brain book, because that establishes your tone of voice. That which is a hugely critical component when it comes to analyzing authoritative sources by AI. The tone of voice and the depth of your knowledge and the depth of your insights is very, very important when returning those citations. It's less about the fluff. Like, AI is not going to go to your Instagram feed and look at all the family photos from your summer vacations, but it is going to go to your LinkedIn profile, or it could discover your LinkedIn profile and find some very insightful thought leadership pieces that you designed around a specific topic that's going to answer a specific query. So make sure that I'm much more on the written word content side of things rather than the graphic design. I suck at graphic design. That's why I had great people on the team that were excellent at it. Shout out Joe Wright. But I'm more of the written word. So my thought leadership pieces are all in PDFs and Word documents and emails and video transcripts and stuff like that. So when I go to build that piece, I'm looking to that content to help train the AI model on who I am, what I'm authoritative on, and what I can do, rather than maybe some of the other fluffier crap that I've produced in my career. So
So
that's
two
my
quick
response.
questions. One is, you said that it likes longer, kind of deeper articles. So Dave was asking for 500 and 750 words, like, or shorter stuff. What do you think that length of article needs to be? Number one, and then number two is, when it comes to the video, does it need to be on YouTube to get picked up, or can it be elsewhere?
It can be elsewhere. It just needs to be public facing. It needs to be discoverable. So it can't be behind a paywall. It can't be behind some kind of firewall that ChatGPT wouldn't have access to. There are certain ways. Like, I played around a lot with Manus, and what's really cool. Todd, you actually just reminded me of something. One thing that I was going to say to the prompt that Dave just, or the prompt thread that Dave just popped up on the screen. One of the things that you can do that's been hugely beneficial to me is, I will ask Chat, if I do a deep research thread, there's two things that you can do. One, you can open up a side window that will show you kind of the thought process. It's almost like an AI stream of consciousness. And I'm a big fan of, when I've got the time, I'm a big fan of sitting there and watching how it goes through, the logic that it's using, of how it's identifying different resources that it pulls into the response. So I'd recommend that you do that. Second thing you can do in that front is to ask ChatGPT straight up. Say, walk me through the logic, or walk me through how you went about determining that these citations or these sources that you're quoting were the authoritative pieces on this, and learn alongside. GPT's got a feature that's supposed to be, I believe it's supposed to be launched with ChatGPT 5 later this summer, called Study Together. And it's very cool because it mirrors how I used to teach. When I was a teacher, I used the Socratic method, which is basically, instead of me being a lecturer, I didn't just stand up in front of the room and talk at my students. I would ask them questions and then just basically moderate the discussion that unfolded. And so I leveraged that a lot into my teaching style. Study Together is the same thing, where AI, it has the answers, but instead of just boom, you put in a prompt and it gives you the response, it's going to ask you questions to help you think more critically. And I can't wait for that to come out and for that to be available, because I'm gonna dive really deep into that. So back to the question that you were asking, Todd, there's not an optimal length. It all depends on the query that was asked and how and the depth of the depth of the response. So maybe depending on the query, that could be 50 words, it could be 200, it could be 3,000. And so it just depends on what the query is that's going to determine whether or not it's the right source. What's cool though is that the first question or the first query tends to not be the most significant and or tends to not necessarily be the ultimate question that someone is getting to. So like right now, I'll give you an example. Right now, my wife and I've got an entire GPT agent or thread geared around full-time living in an RV, specifically a fifth wheel. And I know that you are an avid RVer, Todd. Um, I'm going to start with that. And we're doing deep research on the truck that I need to get and the model of fifth wheel and how much space do we need and all of the other factors that go into it, what our budget's going to look like, how do I stay connected doing what I do on a daily basis. Starlink is the leading candidate right now. So that I'm able to build this out, and the responses that it gives me are all building to a final conclusion that's going to be, we're going to do this at this time frame, this is going to be our budget, and basically giving me the roadmap. Then I'm going to take that information, I'm going to pick up the phone, I'm going to call Todd or other people I know who have lived that life and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing, what's your take on it, what was your experience like? And then I'll have that conversation. But the point is that it's not about necessarily the length of the response or of the citation or the authoritative piece. It's about the depth and how well does it address the question, and or does it solve the problem that was addressed in the prompt. The second thing is around video. And I'm sorry, I've been rambling for a little bit. Can you tell me what it was you were asking about video?
Oh, just if it need to be on YouTube, you kind of already answered it, that it could be anywhere
Okay.
that's forward facing and not behind a paywall.
Yeah, exactly. Answer doesn't change. So,
Just make
but
sure
those
you
are
have
great
your
questions to ask.
timestamps, Todd. In like if you do YouTube, things
Yeah,
like having the timestamps helps, like the
Yeah,
different chapters.
we
having the
got
chapters, building out the description really well. Those are all things that are going to benefit you.
So guys, we got 2 minutes left. I just put a link to this document that has these AI prompts. I'm calling them Mortgage Coach AI prompts. And these AI prompts are designed to help home buyers and homeowners make more informed decisions that align with their short and long-term goals and move forward with confidence and clarity. So like, that is the spirit of these prompts. And I could go on and say, do it in a way that helps loan officers convert more leads into loans and do it in a way that helps loan officers be more valuable to realtors so they are able to recruit realtors and they're able to get more referrals from realtors. I'll probably add that later. So there's a true value and goal to the consumer. There's a true value. Now, I'm not going to make this editable because I don't want the world to like just screw this document up. But I did make it so you can comment on it. So whether you're watching the recording or you're live right now, you can comment. I would love to collect however many prompts we get as a community. Remember, my goal, guys, is to, first of all, change how people get into debt in America by really making better decisions, like help consumers, spread financial literacy in America, which we are in a financial literacy crisis. We're in an affordability crisis. Like we as an industry can make a difference. So I really, customer first. But by the way, if you use Mortgage Coach software and if you follow this YouTube channel and if you take action on the ideas that win, I want you to win. I want you to be the market leaders in the communities that you serve. So please put your comments in, use this. If you do not already use Mortgage Coach, go to Trust Engine. You can sign up as an individual loan officer. If your company does not have you built into your tech stack, like if you have Encompass and you don't have Mortgage Coach, really? If you have Optimal Blue, Poly, and you don't have Mortgage Coach built into your tech stack, I don't know, James, what are your thoughts? Should companies build Mortgage Coach into their tech stack?
Hell yes. I mean, Yeah, when I originated, Dave, there were only three reasons why I was able to originate and lead a marketing division. One was, well, we had a kick-ass workflow. Number two was I had an awesome LPP that I got to work with, and number three was Mortgage Coach. Period. End of story. Because it saved me so much time in my prospecting, and I never really had to worry about losing deals because I knew that I was going to be given the best advice because of how I was able to leverage Mortgage Coach.
Boom. So Deborah, we lost Todd. Do the win by noon close and any actions to put this call actionable.
Well, I would say with all of this, and even probably with AI, we don't lack information. We have it at our fingertips. What we typically lack, regardless of what season and cycle any LO has ever been in, is execution. So if you don't already have the win by noon planner, or if you don't show up every week with a plan to win before noon, that is going to be step number one. Because all of this, you can show up and be great at learning, but if you never do, then what's the point of all this to begin with? The second thing is, I hear it every day, and it's not always the best loan officers whose advice could really make a difference that win the business. Unfortunately, if you're invisible and you're the secret LO and you're not, there's no searchable social proof or no way for me to go to chat and ask, like, who's the best loan officer in Allen, Texas? And if you're not showing up, your advice may not matter, even if it's better advice, because perception's reality. And so, unfortunately, you do need to be visible, but it's what are you going to be visible for? What is it that you want to be known as? What transformations do you make? Do you show up with authority? So, you've got to have your plan, and then you've got to show up to win. Otherwise, you risk being irrelevant and you risk going out of business because there's hundreds of companies and products created every single day that are fantastic, but we don't ever hear about them because they don't apply. There's no meaning behind them and there's no excellence. So there's no lipstick on a pig anymore, guys. You got to get your back end to match the front end. Okay, you can't promise all of these things and then not deliver. So always make sure you have that dialed in as well. And then really think about, what is my legacy? What do I want to be known for? What do I want to be known as? Who am I serving in the deepest way? And am I showing up online and proving that consistently? Because it can't just be, once or twice a week. It needs to be every day. And know that if you need help with this execution, that is what plug and play is for. And if your company needs, more of a CMO, then contact James. So James, I don't know if we've put your contact information or how people can get in touch with you, but what's the best way for them to do that?
LinkedIn. Get to LinkedIn, look up James Duncan, and the name of my company is Kylum Advisors. I'll pop my email in the chat real quick, but it's Kylum Advisors, spelled with an ERS. Sorry, I can't type and talk at the same time. So there you go. Shoot me an email. Connect with me on LinkedIn. We'd love to hang out there. That's where I spend the bulk of my day. So that's the easiest place to find me.
So, and James, do you consult with both? Well, I know you consult with executives and executive
Right.
teams and companies, but do you also work with individual loan officers, or are you purely supporting executive teams?
The bulk of what I offer to companies is going to be more targeted at executives and marketing directors for organizations. But I always love having conversations with loan officers as well because I've lived that life and can help. Rarely ever am I charging for any consultations or anything in that front. So if somebody's got a question, just DM me and I'd be happy to hop on a Zoom and talk about what's going on because maybe that'll be a good foot in the door for getting to know your leadership and being able to say, hey, I can help you with this.
Well, here's my ask to every mortgage coach on this. First of all, this conversation is one that mortgage executives, head of marketing, head of production, would get value from. I mean, he gave some really good advice that forward this interview to your head of marketing, forward this interview to your head of sales, and recommend like, hey, mortgage coach Savage had this great call with the guy who used to be the VP for Thrive and Lower, and I'm telling you, he's truly one of the best partners we've ever had. In terms of just getting adoption of our technology, in terms of turning loan officers into mortgage coaches. Just tell them that they should watch this, and if they like what the guy has to serve, he's the guy they should talk to. So James, I'm a big fan. I really appreciate you making time to be on today's podcast. Appreciate everything you do to advance everything I'm about, changing how people get into debt in a way that loan officers make more money and they create more value in America. So thank you, brother. So wrap
It's my
everybody.
pleasure.
Hope you got value. Remember, if you're not a mortgage coach, trustengine.com, get signed up. If your executive team does not have you built into our tech stack, tell them this is no longer a good idea. This is a requirement. Take care, everybody.